today, obviously, the thing I was talking about, we are going to go over the nesting optimizers, the remnant sheet options, the part-in-part nesting, the CAM wizard for nesting now, filler parts, nesting with the new tabs with lead-ins, grain direction. Okay, the nesting optimizers are really cool because they just allow you to really go in and, you know, the fast nest puts everything together quick. The optimized nest really just gives you a longer nesting. It'll take a little bit longer, but you're going to get the most maximum use out of that sheet. Sheet remnants, as you guys can see here, which is really cool, you know, just kind of get you guys warmed up to what we're going to be seeing. Here's your actual option here for your remnant sheet generation as well as custom sheet nesting. Part-in-part nesting, we're going to go over that, but what's nice is you no longer have to allocate one part to be a part-in-part. You guys can actually go ahead and say, actually, you know what, I want this to actually nest inside of the other parts. It'll automatically do it without you having to assign a particular part for that. You have CAM wizards. We added in CAM wizards to match everything to make it easy to navigate through our nesting program as well. It's just really nice to, you know, have the option in here where you guys can see everything. The nice part is the filler parts. What's really cool about the particular filler options for the actual filler parts themselves, you can actually assign certain parts that have filler parts. So after it gets done with the nest of the normal parts, it'll then go in and fill in the other areas with the extra parts left over for the filler section. Now you have two strategies for adding tabs now. You actually have your option where you guys can use normal tabbing, and then for laser, plasma, and water jet, we actually allow the option to apply leads to create your tab. And then grain direction is a pretty big thing. We've been obviously looking to add this in for a while where you guys can actually pick your direction for the grain so make sure it lays all the parts with that direction in mind. Then you have more nesting features. We added in stock margin, local area nesting, enhanced options for multiple corner nesting, nesting summary, full machine simulation. And then obviously we're going to have a few of our actual options for training solutions. Obviously we could train you on the new nesting, you know, for those who are looking at getting the new nesting in particular. Now, let's go ahead and hop into the actual nesting software itself. All right. Okay. So let's start off with the normal nesting side. So a really neat feature that we actually added in that has been really nice and really easy to help out with a lot of the stuff that we've been going through. Okay. We're actually going to go ahead ourselves. Hold on one sec. Hold on. I have a few questions I need to answer. Okay. So what we're going to do in this particular case is we're going to go ahead ourselves and go on to the actual nesting side. Now, something that we added in that's pretty interesting. When you go in and you pick the nesting under the actual machining job option now, you pick your machine, and then when you go to nesting wizard now, it opens up the wizard, which is nice. It matches. So if you're using it for mill or you have other options in BobCAD, you know the wizard's a pretty big thing for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead ourselves, and you can select geometry, so if you have parts on the screen that you drew, but you can also go loading files. What's pretty interesting about the actual loading file option, you actually can bring in DWGs now, but if I go in and I grab a couple DXFs, one of the things, the reason why I want to show you guys this is pretty neat. If I go ahead and I grab this DXF, and this DXF, and then I hit open, what it does is it breaks down the CAD layers. So for the first time, you guys can actually bring in the layers and pick which layers you want. So for like the milling side, you could actually have the holes on a layer in the other program, like say AutoCAD, and you guys can actually assign layers to holes, data, or just ignore. And that's what's really neat about it, is you guys can actually go in and customize. This particular case, I got a few parts, okay? I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to hit OK. And let it load in the parts. And obviously, as you guys can see, because I had a nested out sheet that I had saved out as a DXF, it brings in a wide variety of parts. But those all had parts in there. And the big thing about that is, say you have a part that's already drawn, but you have 100 of them on there, 100 different parts in one file, it will break them down as inner and outer profiles for everything. Okay? So what I'm going to do. Now, another neat thing is you guys can actually hold down Shift, and you guys can select the in and out and delete stuff. So you guys don't have to actually go in and manually delete everything, which is really neat. So we're going to hit next, and we're just going to go through here. And as you guys can see here, you have your actual sheet. You have the quantities. So you could go in and say, I want 200 of these. I want, let's say 50. Let's do 30. Then we're going to go down here and we're going to choose, let's just say another 30 of them, 30 of these little triangles. You have an angle increment that you guys can do for rotation. Obviously, because we do true shape nesting, you guys can go in and actually control the way the nesting is going to work. The other nice side is you guys can do an angle list where you can assign specific angles at which to rotate from one to the next to the next. All right, now what's going to happen? Now what's going to happen is if I go ahead myself and I'm going to hit next, okay? Just so you guys know, down here you actually have the grain direction option, vertical, horizontal. All right. What's going to happen now is if I hit next, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next phase. So the next page is where you guys would actually be allowed to assign your tabs. You guys have apply tabs here, and then you have apply lead-ins, okay? So you guys can do a lead-in and lead-out over here. That's completely up to you guys, just depending on how you guys want to output. I'm not going to worry about it right now. We're going to jump into the next, which is the sheet parameters. You guys have the option to choose your sheet shape, as well as you guys can do custom sheets. So this is where you guys can do like bring in the sheet remnant or draw a custom shape or something like that. Now what's going to happen is if I go ahead myself after I've gotten all that stuff defined, I define my sheet, I pick which corner, I fill sheet vertical or horizontal, and then you also have the grain direction option here, okay? Then you have set stock margin. What's really cool is you have uniform stock margin, where it keeps the same size all the way around. And then you have variable, where you can actually go in and assign a different variable for top, left, bottom, and right, okay? Now the nice part is once you hit OK, you also have advanced options where you guys can go in and do sheet priority, multiple corner, flip the corners. All these different options will invert and give you the option to nest out the parts in the corner and then start from there. And then there's also a local area nesting. So say you bring in a remnant sheet, but you want to nest in a specific region, you can assign an actual local area, and what it'll do is it will only nest inside, let's just say, a rectangle area on that remnant sheet, instead of it trying to fit parts down in like a triangle or some corner. It can't. Then you hit next, and you actually have the option to choose, you know, climb mill, conventional mill. Then you have your start corners, your cutting direction, cut pattern. You have maximum part distance, and then you also have a thermal distance. This is for more of your plasma and laser guys. This helps you so you're not always cutting the same parts in the same area and the heat warping the sheet. It'll actually go ahead and help you with cutting around by defining your actual thermal distance. Okay. You have cut large part later. You guys can go ahead and turn that on. And then you have your bridge distance. You have your by area or by perimeter. And then down here, so we were talking about that part in part option. And if any of you have ever used the older nesting program, you used to have to assign a particular part to be a PIP, part in part. Now we just turn on the allow part in part nesting. Okay. And what the part in part option does, it just takes the part, and if it can put it inside of another part, it'll still do it, but it can also be a part of the main nested out sheet. The filler part option is over here. These are just options for us to do it, where we can fill up, you know, filler quantity on last sheet, right, filling it up. And then you also have the option, like we were talking about, other options, best nesting direction, nest part only if full quantity, okay? And then you have flat and fit. Now all these optimizing options that we're going to go into next are part of the pro side. So a lot of the stuff that we're going to go over, like sheet remnants, stuff like that, that is pro options. And I'm going to give you guys a breakdown of exactly what's pro at the end of this, so you guys can actually see what the pro options are. If you are looking for sheet remnant or anything like that, you should definitely go pro so you actually have that ability. But the optimizers are down here. We were talking about fastness versus optimal, right? Fastness and the options for fastness, and then you have optimal nesting and the options for the optimal nesting, so you can actually get the best yielded nest. Now, once you go ahead and you actually go through these options, each one of these will output a particular way for you, but you're going to hit OK, and then you're going to also have the option to go down here and you have remnant sheet. And then you guys can choose rectangular style, true shape, stepped, or kind of steps away, gives you rectangles. And then you also have clean cut, where it just cuts it clean. And you know, even though there's open areas here, it would still be open. You get one clean, nice cut. Okay. So those are the remnant options as well. We're not going to worry about that right now. We're going to just do a normal nest. So then you go back down in here to your default features and then your default profile, and you're going through your typical BobCAD options. You know, for the router side, you're going to have wrap plane, feed plane, your total depth. You're going to have the strategy options where you can customize it. And then you're going to have the actual profiling option as well. And you can go in and actually define your size of your tool. Once you've defined the tool the particular way you'd like, parameter settings, where you can go in and you can choose, you know, compensation left, compensation right. This helps out on the laser plasma and water jet for the actual compensation of the beam. And then you also have your parameter settings where you guys can go in and choose single step, you know, on the milling side, and the router side if you want to do single step or multiple steps. That way you can cut it out. And then you have your overall lead in and lead outs for the router side, and also if you're not using a tab or anything, you can use this for laser, plasma, and water jet as well. What I'm going to do after that is I'm going to go ahead and hit compute and let it start processing. As you can see now, it opens up this nice window. It starts processing the data, running through left to right, and going from there. Okay. Boom, look at that. Okay. And if you look, see how it's like throwing the little triangles in the areas that it can fit? Okay. So what's nice is if we want to know what the yield of this nest in particular is, we can actually go over here and you have all your tree stuff, so you have your sheet and everything. Go down to that, show that sheet summary, and we can see, okay, cool. So we actually have 10 parts left over on part 1. We also have, you know, 2 and 3 are nested out all their parts. We have 62.88 efficient or utilization, and then we can go ahead from there. Go down here, we have the default operations, we have all this. The nice part is if you want to go in and start messing with settings and changing stuff around, you are more than welcome to go right back in, edit it, or add more parts to the mix. So what you're able to actually do is if I go in here in this particular case and I go to parts, I go to part 1 and I say, you know what, I only want 100 of these. I'm going to do this filler part option, right? So I'm going to go down to the triangle and I'm going to say, okay, we want 30 as the main, but then we want to nest out 200 more as a filler. What this is going to do is we're going to go ahead and hit compute. It's going to nest out the regular job first. And then whatever's left, it's going to throw all those triangles as the filler area to fill in the sheet for us, so we're not, you know, we're using all of the sheet. Give it a second, it'll take a second while it throws those filler parts on. Now this is when you start messing with those type of settings, you actually run into that particular area where it takes a little bit longer, okay? So as you can see all the little triangles thrown everywhere. The old nesting really would have never thrown them in between 2 parts that aren't closed off like this. So we're actually really utilizing a lot of this lower sheet, but we still have a remnant option here, okay? Now I can use the remnant option on here so you guys can see it. What you guys end up doing is you go in here and you edit. You'll go down in here to the actual sheet parameters, go down to the nesting, turn on remnant sheet. We'll say we just want a rectangular remnant, okay? We'll do a stepped option. Hit OK, compute it, let it run through. It's going to run through the process, and then it's going to nest it out. Now, a few of the other things that I'll point out for you guys so you guys know. With the new option, you can actually go through and look at everything. And what's nice about it is you guys actually, with the new nesting and everything, with the new wizards and optimize, obviously we've added some few options. Big thing for guys that may not be on 28, that have a router and do a lot of woodworking or stuff like that as well. This is just a side note. We do custom shaped tooling now. that can be utilized for your profiling and other options in BobCAD. Give it a second. Now, if you guys have any questions on anything you want to know if the nesting can do it, please go ahead and feel free to start typing in away, and I can answer them as we're going through everything. Okay, guys? Okay, we have a really good question right now. Once parts are nested, do you have the ability to individually relocate them? Not currently. That is another option that we are working to add and everything like that. So we are working on stuff like that, but it's just currently not available in this particular nesting. All right, we have another good question here, and then we'll go over the sheet remnant option that pops up for you guys. Can you do engraving or pocketing cut on shapes that have been nested? Yes. What happens is the actual original part, say there was a pocketed area, you can go in and add that area as a pocket, or you have lettering you want to engrave. You would be able to go in, add it to that particular part. It would have to come in with the original piece, but you can switch it to an engrave or a pocketed. Once they're nested out over here, the only way you would ever be able to do that is to export the sheet as a DXF, add in whatever options, and then throw toolpath back on each individual part, okay? Now right here you have your sheet remnant option. What you're able to do is export it. You save it as a DXF file. I'm going to show you guys. And we're going to use it for our next nest. All right? And then that's our remnant, okay? So that's how you guys do a sheet remnant. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab this test. Boom, there's your sheet remnant. See that right there? There's the actual DXF for you guys to use. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in some other parts to kind of show you guys how to nest back into those, different shapes and everything as well. Now, go into the nesting. We choose our nesting wizard. We're going to load some files in. All right. Okay, give me a second. We're going to do part 1. All right, hold on. Part 1, 2, and 3. All right. So perfect. Couple new parts. All right. And then actually we're going to grab one other part as well. So bear with me for just 1 second. We're going to throw this other part in there too. All righty. All right, so we actually have another question as well. I was just reading over to time. I'm quite new to the whole nesting. Haven't actually worked with the software myself. I'm an engineering systems analyst, so I'm looking at nesting software as part of our information flow through the business. I'm curious how sheet size and material are taken into account. Does it correlate with the material specifics in SolidWorks? No, it does not. Because you're not actually bringing in your SolidWorks file, it actually doesn't have those options. It doesn't read the material. It doesn't read the type of material, anything like that. You're bringing in a flat 2D part, so it's not going to have any of that data. All right, okay. Okay, so let's load 2 more files in, and then we will be golden. All right. I'm going to bring in a shape that's not typical, but it's pretty nice because it's actually an eagle. All right, these are a few different other parts, and we're going to use a couple of these off this actual nested out option. So give me 1 second. Good. This is actually the cutout I was looking for to make the eagle. Good. Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and hit next. And what we're going to do in this particular case, as you guys can see, if it actually already has this one in particular has the dados defined, and it actually has the actual drill defined. Because they're already on a layer of a part that was brought in, what's really cool is it breaks them off and does it for us. So what we're going to do in this particular case is we're going to try to nest these out on the sheet remnant. I'm only going to use one of each of the parts. That way we can really get in there and see what's going on with the actual rest of them. And then you guys will go through. Now what's kind of neat is we've already gone over most of this stuff, but if you go down here to the drill side, when you do call out a drilling cycle, you're going to go in here. You can go in here and actually go down to the parameters. You have single depth pec or fast pec cycle. And then for the dados, you're just doing a profile. And that's all it is. It's just cutting out the dados on the parts so you can actually, join up stuff and everything. So when you hit compute, you'll go through and out everything. I forgot to switch to the remnant sheet. Okay. So what we want to do is we have all the parts, as you guys can see here. We need to turn on the sheet remnant. So that's when you're in the actual settings and you go to the actual sheet parameters. You're going to say custom shape, pick geometry, and you guys can actually either load in your geometry or pick the one on the screen. Hit compute. And then nest out your excess. Boom. And as you guys can see, what we were talking about with those part and part nests, see how it fits the other parts inside of each other? And we didn't have to define those parts as an actual part and part nest. It does a great job of doing that. And what's nice too, just so you guys can actually see, so we could fit, a few of these eagles on here, right? So what you can actually do, which is really cool, is you guys can actually, when you're in editing the part parameters, you guys can actually just select, do that whole shift and select, highlight everything and say, I want 5 of each. It'll change all the quantities to 5, okay? Hit compute and watch this. Now it's going to nest out 5 of each part, and we're actually going to have a really big nest on the sheet. Boom, see? Fits parts inside of other parts, everything. We just maximize it. And then the nice part is you guys can go back into that sheet summary, really find out if you got everything on there that you needed. Oh, we have a couple parts that have 5 left over because we weren't able to fit them. But you get to see that stuff, and as you guys can see, what's nice is you guys can really get those better nests that you guys are looking for. Any questions on that, guys? Go ahead and start typing those away. That's kind of showing you guys how you were able to bring in the sheet remnant. It actually goes off the actual sheet itself. As you guys can see, the little jagged edges, it tried to fit parts down in there. So as you guys can see, the nesting has definitely improved, and obviously having the new options has really helped us. Okay. Now, just so you guys can actually see, I'm going to break out an image for you guys to kind of go over. So your regular nesting that we went over doesn't include, if you're going with nesting standard, will not include your remnant sheet, your custom stock shapes, okay, your local area nesting, your full optimizers, your grain direction, and multiple corner nesting. So you don't have any of the optimizers, you don't have sheet remnants. That's just for standard, rectangular shapes that you guys are going to nest out. You still have like the part and part and everything like that. But these are the actual nesting option pro options. They're what make it from standard to pro, okay? And that way you guys can actually have it. These are the ones that stick out the most, is obviously like grain direction, full optimizers, and then the remnant sheet and custom shapes for people that, do rectangular or circular sheets or like to use a lot of sheet remnants to really help improve their output and eliminate a lot of sheet waste, okay? Now, a few of the other things to point out as well, when you guys actually go in, you guys are still able to go in and actually simulate, which is nice if you want to simulate your CAD. Make sure everything's really going the way you want it to. You're still able to do that as well. And then you guys will actually be able to post out and everything and take the actual code to the machine. The nice part is, as you can see, the simulator shows the remnant sheet shape itself, okay? And what you're able to actually do is go in and turn on the rest of your settings. Pull it over, hit play, and you guys are able to actually watch it start doing it all. And there's all of our pieces being cut out. All right. Now the nice part is once you guys have that stuff sorted out and done with, you guys can then move on to the next phase of it all. And on the particular next phase, we'd want the G-code. So all we're going to do here is right-click on your nesting job, go down and hit Post. And it's actually going to post out our actual options down here for our G-code. There it is. And there would be our code. Okay. So as you guys can tell, there's actually not a whole lot to the actual nesting. It's a pretty simple module to use, especially with the enhancements that we've improved on. Now, if you guys have any particular parts you want to see ran through the nesting, or you guys actually have particular questions you want to know about the nesting, if it's going to help with what you guys are particularly doing, because obviously certain people nest out, with a laser, some do routers, some do certain things, furniture, bringing in DXFs, making different types of stuff, please feel free to contact us. My job here is to actually help you guys with finding out if it's going to help you and save you guys money on your machining. So please feel free to go ahead and send over some emails, ask questions, send over part files you want to see in the nesting. If you would like a personal nesting demo with your parts, we can do that as well. So what I'm going to do right now is this is going to end off today's nesting webinar. I'm going to leave the chat open for a few extra minutes for you guys to go ahead and type away any questions. I'll feel free to answer those questions as well. I do appreciate you guys taking it. We are working on the next one as well. It looks like we do have a quick question though. Do you guys have part value optimization? Chuck, if you can elaborate a little bit on the actual part value optimization, that'd be great, and I can give you a better answer on that. But feel free, guys, to sign up for the next webinars we are working. If you have ideas, please shoot those over as well. We've been trying to go through all the ideas that we've been getting and trying to build the webinars based off those. Obviously, with the nesting, it is a new product. We do need to get the webinar of that out. So please let us know if you have any suggestions or ideas that you guys would like to see, and we will go ahead and actually handle that for you guys. Again, I appreciate you guys taking the time to come into the webinar, and we'll see you guys next time.